Hello, I'm Pastor Carl Johnston with the Atlanta, Ebenezer, and Hopedale United Methodist Churches, the Prairie Winds Parish. Today is Thursday, and our devotion for Thursday is another question. Question is about prayer. Is it better to pray out loud, or is it okay to pray in your thoughts? Which one's more effective or more helpful? It's a good question. Now, some people would argue that God spoke the world into existence. He didn't just think it into existence, so speaking would be better than thinking. But the truth of the matter is, from the earliest days of your life and mine, you were told to think before you speak. I wonder if we're getting into a kind of chicken and egg kind of question. Which is more effective? I think it depends. It may depend upon the person. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 6, it talks about Jesus is teaching about prayer, about don't be like the Pharisees who just babble on and on thinking that they're going to be heard by God for all of their fine words. He says and instructs us to go into a private place, into our closet, and to pray there. And the Father who sees in secret will reward us in secret. And then he teaches us to pray the Lord's Prayer, the model prayer, the disciples' prayer. Sometimes, all the time, prayer requires the whole of the person. Now, behind me, you see the praying hands. Sometimes we do fold our hands. Sometimes we bow our heads. Sometimes we close our eyes. Sometimes we kneel. Sometimes we bow. We do all sorts of different things with our body. So sometimes that helps us in our prayer. Is it more effective to kneel or is it more effective to stand? It depends. And it depends upon each person. Before you start to pray, it's a pretty good idea to think about what you're going to say. Can you think to yourself? Yes. Can you then, once you think it through, articulate it? Sometimes we have questions and we don't know exactly how to phrase them or whatever, and we have to think them through. We have to think through the question before we can ask it. I think it's important that we do some thinking, especially as we start talking to God. How will this prayer build up our relationship? How will this prayer help me to be a better follower? How will this prayer help me to intercede for other people? Is it all going to be about me? And there are times a prayer about yourself is fine. But there are also times when praying for others is also delightful. It's conversation with God. Can God hear your thoughts? Yes. Can God hear your words? Yes. So what's the answer? The answer is each of us were created uniquely and differently, and God needs to hear from us. And if you're praying, that's wonderful. If you're praying mentally, just your thoughts, that can be a good thing. But sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes my thoughts go astray. But when I'm talking, usually I can pretty much stay on the same topic if I'm talking to someone or to a computer screen. Usually I can stay on the same topic. So sometimes that helps, but I've had other friends who said, don't worry about thinking about your prayers or saying your prayers. I've got friends who write out their prayers. They take a piece of paper and they start, Dear God, and they write things out. It could be that our prayer life is kind of dependent upon our own personality and what helps us the most. Sometimes we can get distracted in our thoughts. Sometimes we run out of words to say. We just don't know how to articulate the things we're trying to say. And sometimes maybe we don't have the desire to write them out. But what is important is that God wants us to talk with Him. That we need to talk with God. That there is something that helps our soul to know that we are heard, we are listened to, we are loved. So, whether you think, or whether you speak, or whether you write, communicate with God. That's the most important thing. That's something to think about.